Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Sony Vaio VGC M1 all-in-one PC from Sony, released around 2005 I think. Now the Vaio line of PCs are not computers that I've really had much to do with over the years, but when I saw this one for sale not too far away from me with its interesting styling to say the least, I had to pick it up and take a look at it. Now it does have a problem which I'll get to in a minute, but hopefully we're going to be able to fix that and see what this machine's all about. Taking a look at the sticker here on the front, we can see that this features a 15.4 inch X-Black LCD with 1280 x 800 resolution, 512 megabytes of RAM, 160 gig hard disk and a 3.06 gigahertz Pentium 4 CPU. That I presume was the stock configuration. I've got no idea whether this has been upgraded or not, but we'll find out when we get inside. The first interesting thing that strikes me about this is when we look at Sony's blurb here on the front underneath the specs, the first thing that they list is first audio PC with integrated subwoofer. Great, but if we get this thing working, it better have some awesome bass to be putting that as the top claim, you know, the main thing that you want to say about this computer. It says flip between keyboard for easy switch between PC and hi-fi function. Now from what I understand is when you got the keyboard folded up like this, you get track information or time elapsed and your track controls and whatnot displayed here on the top of the screen. X-Black LCD, ultra sharp, ultra bright images, well, see about that. And watch and record TV on your PC and enjoy your media contents with Vaio Zone. Whatever that is, again, if we can get it working, we'll find out. One of the really crazy things I think about this is the design of it. I mean, if I just turn that to the side a bit, look at the big expansive PC at the back. I'm guessing we've got a load of desktop components cramped in here, and then we've got this sort of idea of it looks like a laptop's just been sort of folded up and left against it. It's not a design that I've seen before, but it's an interesting one nonetheless. You can see the keyboard flips down here, and I'm noticing straight away there's a bit of a mark on the screen there. I'm not sure if that's coming through on the video, but it lines up with where the keyboard comes up, and to be honest, this feels a little bit plasticky, a little bit wobbly. I mean, maybe it's just how this one's been treated. Maybe they were all like that, but I can't feel anything in the screen, so if we can get it working, maybe we can get that mark cleaned out. Keyboard, yeah, it's your typical plasticky laptop type affair. It's presented as a media center type PC. I don't think there were going to be too many people banging out Word documents on this. But before we go any further, let's take a look around it. On the right hand side we have the optical drive, and down there, which I don't even quite see that, is the standard power input 3-pin socket kettle lead. On the back, just 3 USB ports. Interestingly, that one's labelled with a mouse symbol, so does a mouse have to be plugged into that one? Surely it works in any USB port. We've got the rating sticker, a Windows XP Home product sticker. Interesting that it came with XP Home rather than Media Center Edition, given that this was marketed very much as a media PC. Just pausing the video for a moment here because it seems I've lost the footage of me going through the ports on the left hand side. So just quickly, in the leftmost column, top port is a antenna input, although I believe that's analog only, so since we're now all digital here in the United Kingdom, we won't be getting any TV through that, I'm afraid. Beneath that, S-video port, component video, audio left and right out. In the middle column, we've got a 3.5mm jack for headphones. Beneath that, telephone line in for the modem. Then 3.5mm jacks again for line out and speaker out.
two more USB 2.0 ports, and at the bottom Ethernet port for networking. And then on the right hand side we've got a memory stick slot at the top for the proprietary Sony memory stick format. Underneath that, PCMCIA card slot, and then at the very bottom an iLink port. Right, back to the video.
Being 2005, we're at that point where Sony's dumped all the legacy ports, so there's no parallel, there's no serial or anything like that on here. We've just got the 5 USB ports between the 2 on the left hand side and the 3 on the back. The one on the back labelled with the mouse, I guess that means, in fact I'm just going to turn around this and check. Yeah, there's no integrated mouse on this, so we've got an all-in-one PC, integrated keyboard, but no mouse. If you want to use a mouse on this, you're going to have to plug an external mouse in, which strikes me as a bit of an omission. Maybe they could have found somewhere on this keyboard for a trackpad, maybe made it a little bigger perhaps. Maybe they could have even fitted in one of those little sort of mouse joysticky things that hide between the keys on some laptops. But no, we got nothing like that, so I think it's external mouse if you want to use mouse functions. There is a remote control that comes with that would have come with this computer originally. I don't have one of those, but if we get it working, we'll get one and see what that can do. Maybe you can do mouse functions with a remote control. That might be one way that they've tried to alleviate the mouse, or maybe it doesn't have one. Maybe it doesn't have one altogether. But if we can get it working, we'll see. And Sony weren't shy on the case badges for this. We've got graphics by ATI, superior DRAM from Infineon, so thanks to those guys for that. The Intel Pentium 4, like we've already seen on the front, and designed for Windows XP, as we know from this sticker on the back. So according to the seller, the only information I have on this is that it doesn't power on anymore. So before we start taking it to bits, let's just double check that. I've got a power cable connected, we're switched on and plugged in, so let's press the button. Yep, we're getting absolutely nothing from there. Nope, nothing holding it down either, so I think it's time to unplug. We'll start taking bits off and see what we can find.
Right, I'm going to go through the disassembly process fairly quickly because there's quite a lot to get through. The first thing is this access cover on the top at the back. Just press the 2 plastic clips in and that pops off. The little metal door you can see at the side, that's held on by 2 screws. Pop that off to get access to the 2 memory slots, and in here there's just one of the 2 populated with the original 512 megs of memory. With the access cover removed, this exposes some screws that we need to take out in order to get the back off. However, the heads of a lot of these screws are quite chewed up, so it looks like somebody's been in here before, maybe to try and fix this same problem. We will see. First up, it's just the 4 screws across the top. Then 4 more at the back. Release the 2 plastic clips at the bottom. And here it is turned around with the cover removed. What we're looking at is a combination of the metal chassis and some shielding panels. There's the main cooling fan grille here, and if I turn it around to end on, yep, that little tiny speaker, that's the subwoofer. I have to say, from Sony's claims, I was hoping for something a little bigger. But, to be fair, there's more to it than that, as we'll see shortly. It looks like the power supply is behind here, so the next thing we need to do is remove this main piece of shielding. Removing the shielding is the same as removing the back cover. Just work your way around the edge, removing all the screws. The grey plastic cover around the I/O ports just pops off on a couple of clips. Then the shielding lifts away to reveal the guts of the computer. In the middle you can see the heatsink and fan on top of the Pentium 4 processor, and that's on a custom sized motherboard sized solely to fit this machine. In the back corner is the power supply, which we're interested in. Then beneath that, underneath this metal box, is a plastic enclosure on the back of the subwoofer. Now I think this enclosure is one of those sort of port resonator type boxes which are designed to give small speakers the ability to produce a much sort of bigger sound than they would ordinarily be able to produce. Although I do wonder, with it taking up that much space, why didn't they just put a bigger speaker in to begin with? Now I don't think this next step is strictly necessary, but removing a couple of screws and unplugging the cable will get that subwoofer out the way to give us a bit more room to work with. Finally, if we take out the screws around the edge of this bottom piece, it allows the whole assembly then to slide out. On it we find the power supply, the hard disk drive and a little PCB with 3 USB ports on it from the back of the computer. Then we just need to unplug the cable going to this PCB, unplug the IDE cable from the hard disk and unplug the main ATX power supply connector from the motherboard, and the whole part is free. The power supply is a 190 watt unit made by Delta Electronics. It's a little bit dusty, so I'm going to have to give that a clean. Remove this one final screw on the end and then the power supply will slide out of this cradle. Just the final cable to unplug then, it's the cable from the power supply into the back of the hard disk. I've had the power supply apart, checked the fuse inside, checked the capacitors and whatnot, and everything inside looks absolutely fine. So I think it's time to jump this power supply and see if we get any life out of it. Now looking at the ATX plug on the end of the cable there, that looks like a normal ATX plug with the normal ATX wire colours, but I'm not sure that they are in their normal ATX standard positions. However, I am willing to bet that the green wire will still be the power on wire and the blacks will of course still all be grounds. Therefore, I'm going to get a paper clip, jump from the green wire to any of the black wires, and we'll plug it in, switch it on. We'll see if we get any life out of it, we'll see if the fan spins, we'll see if we get any voltage out then. If not, we've obviously got a dead power supply, or if it does come into life, we've got a problem elsewhere in the system.
And would you look at that? I don't know if you can hear it on the video, but that power supply actually switched on and worked. So that begs the question, is the problem with this unit inside the computer? I think what we need to do is get the main chassis back over here and have a look and check some continuity from the power switch back to the motherboard. Hopefully if there is a problem it's there. If there's a problem on the motherboard, then that's going to be much trickier to sort out. Okay, hopefully you can see this on the video. The power switch here, when we press it, it's just on a sort of sprung piece of plastic, and there is a little tiny switch there on this small PCB, and all the power button is doing is pressing that switch. Maybe we can get onto that and check continuity is happening when the power button is being pressed.
So knowing the micro switch is working and knowing the power supply is working means that the problem must lay somewhere between the two. I did a bit more fault finding, and that thin white ribbon cable you can see me pointing to on the video actually turned out to be the problem. It's got about five traces in it, and 2 of the 5 are broken. I haven't been able to easily find a replacement ribbon cable, so what I decided to do was take the computer to the shed, implement a temporary fix, one that can easily be reversed when I can find a replacement ribbon cable, but one that would get us up and running in the meantime. So here's some shaky handheld footage of that fix so you can see what I did. I soldered a couple of wires to the other 2 terminals on the micro switch, and when it's pressed it joins those 2 wires together just like normal. One of the wires goes to the green wire from the power supply and the other wire goes to one of the black wires. So when we press the switch, it bridges those wires together to turn the power supply on, just like we did with the papers clip earlier. So with that, all that was left to do was give the insides of this a good clean, put it all back together and try it out. Here we are booting into good old Windows XP. It wasn't straightforward to get here. The first time I tried booting this up, it got about halfway through and then failed due to missing or corrupted files, and then each subsequent attempt to boot up was even worse. Thankfully, the recovery portion of the hard disk was unaffected, and I was able to use that to reinstall Windows XP along with all the software that Sony bundles with it, so that we've got a nice fresh install for us to take a look at on here.
Straight away on the start menu, you can tell this must be the early to mid 2000s because we've got both Windows Messenger and Yahoo Messenger waiting for us. And what's that below it? Is that some sort of Yahoo Personals type ad thing? Straight away on the start menu? Wonderful. And holy bloatware, look at all that lot that Sony sees fit to include. I mean, before you've even got any of your own programs on here, you've already got 1.5 columns of start menu on your screen just from the stuff that Sony includes. What have we got? Let's see. Some video codec stuff, Java, flipping out. Norton Internet Security, we'll get rid of that. Load of Vaio stuff, Vaio updates, Vaio system info. Norton Password Manager as well. DVD stuff, memory stick stuff. Oh, Microsoft Works. Not seen you in a while. Picture editing type stuff, TV tuner stuff, and a load more Vaio things. And then a whole bunch of Adobe stuff. So yeah, they were including a lot of multimedia, picture, video, DVD type programs, which you'd expect given the way that this PC was marketed. Let's have a quick look in control panel and onto system. And yep, as expected, there's the mobile Pentium 4, the 0.5 gig of RAM. And a quick look in device manager. Yep, everything installed, all the drivers installed as you'd expect. And our ATI graphics card is, it's an ATI Mobility Radeon 9200, so not the strongest card of the time, but we might be able to do a bit of light gaming on that. Everything else looks good. This white mark this mark here on the screen showing up on this white background really looks pretty bad. We're going to have to try and see if we can do anything about that. It's not so bad in a dark background, but get it on a light coloured background, it shows up pretty badly. I've downloaded a song off the YouTube audio library and we're going to play it. There's a bit of a bass line to this song, so that should let us hear what this little subwoofer can do. I'm going to bring the lapel mic in close, so hopefully this comes through good on the video. I'll play a bit, we'll have a listen and see what we think.
Well, it's not brilliant. It definitely sounds better, sounds bassier than a little speaker of that size should, but I think even a 3-inch woofer would give you more bottom end than what this manages. It's nice to have, but I think even a reasonably low budget set of external speakers would give you better sound than what you get out of this. So that's where we're going to leave this Vaio for this video. I've got to get a few bits sorted out and then we'll pick it up again in part 2. I've found the optical drive is dead and I've traced the problem to the drive itself, so I need to source a replacement for that. We'll also get a remote so that we can look at how this Vaio was supposed to be used as a hi-fi and how the remote interacts with it. We can have a look at some of the more interesting pieces of software that are bundled on here, and we'll try a bit of gaming on it as well and see how it does with that. I'll also give it a good clean and see if I can get that mark off the screen. But for now, if you've got any comments, please leave them below, and I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.